Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're replacing the front brake pads on this Hyundai I20. First thing I'm going to do is twist the caliper outwards so I can get to those bolts behind it a little bit easier. Now I'm going to try to compress the piston in slightly so I can remove the caliper. But as you can see, there's very little movement in there even when I leverage it on with a screwdriver, sorry. There's very little movement in there. So I'm going to leave that for a second. Now I'm just going to undo the 10mm holding the brake flexi to the shock, and I'll show you why now in a minute. But first I'm going to remove these two 14mm holding the brake caliper on itself. So just crack them off with a mini breaker bar in your hand, and then just undo them the rest of the way. There is a 17mm on the inside, so if yours starts to spin you can just grab it with that, but these aren't spinning, and that explains the caliper being locked up earlier. These pins are actually seized. Now with those bolts off and that flexi loose, you can just pull the caliper off and rest it on the floor there without putting too much strain on the hose. Now let's just pop these pads out, and as you can see, the outer one's slightly more worn, less worn, sorry, than the inside one, and they're both stuck in there. These brakes haven't been maintained very well for a while by the looks of them. The pins are stuck and the pads are seized. You eventually wedge them out. Give a little tap with your hand. Shouldn't have to wrestle them this much, they should move freely. Finally, I did that in real time so you could see how much of an actual struggle it was. Now I'm spraying it all down and then going to roughen it up with a wire brush. It's got shims on here, so I'm going to try cleaning the shim, but I also want to clean underneath it, just to make sure you get as much debris off. You don't want anything under the shim pushing it up, but you also don't want anything on the shim stopping the pads from gliding as smoothly as they can be. So just take that off and clean everything up as much as you can, but don't forget to put them back on. I like to go over it with a wire brush just to get in those places, well, like a hand wire brush to get into those places where the circular drill one couldn't, just to make sure you do get as much debris off as you can. Just give it a good scrub. Then spray any debris that's left over off and let the brake clean up everything else. And then put the shim back on, repeat it on the top. The actual state on that. So it's seized in there, it was. But they used the blowtorch to heat it up and then tapped it out with a punch. Just because somebody hasn't cleaned that off and put some proper grease on it when they last did the job. That's what happens when you buy a car from Trade Centre Wales, I suppose. Cleaned it up now. Bit of red rubber grease. Just do the job properly, innit? So I put some on the tip and then just let the bore slide it up the rest of the pin. Just make sure it's moving in there as freely as it should be. It's a lot better than what it was now anyway. You can see how good it's moving in there. And as you can see, I've put the pads in now. I put a bit of lithium grease on the contact points of that. And now I'm sliding the boot back, well, the piston back in. So what I'm doing here now is I'm trying to keep an eye on the brake fluid reservoir because somebody's topped it up rather than checking the pads. So I've emptied some out, but I don't want it to overflow. So I'm just gently putting the piston in whilst keeping an eye on the fluid levels in the reservoir so it doesn't make a mess. And then I'll suck some more out if it overfills or overflows. Now I just refit the caliper and to put those securing bolts back on the back of the caliper, and don't forget to put the 10mm back in the brake flexi. This one is relatively new and in good condition. Your 10mm might not be, so assess that as you do it because you don't want to snap it. If yours is rusty when you come to doing yours, then use a bungee cord or something to hold the caliper up on the spring, or even use like a metal coat hanger or something like that. Then you get the cap back on and pump the pedal until it's firm, and that's a job as a good one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.